So, for over a decade now, we've had a brand new Black Ops game every 2 to 3 years. Black Ops 1 in 2010, Black Ops 2 in 2012, as well as Declassified, since that released on the same day as Black Ops 2 but for the PlayStation Vita, 2015 Black Ops 3, 2018 Black Ops 4, and 2020 Cold War. Which, let's be real here, I think most people refer to it just as Cold War, not Black Ops Cold War. They should have just called it Cold War. There was no point in putting Black Ops in the title. I get why they did it, but considering the sales numbers from the looks of things and how much more successful Modern Warfare's been, it's pretty safe to say the name alone is not carrying this game. And it's not doing as well as Activision probably wanted it to. A lot of this information comes from Tom Henderson, who's very reliable when it comes to information about games like COD and Battlefield, so if he's saying this with this tweet, then clearly it must be pretty accurate for the fact that the game just isn't, again, performing as well as Activision wants it to, and outside of the name, it's just not as good as it could be. An extra year would have made this game turn out so much better than it has. No doubt about that. That's obvious for the fact that more time in the oven to properly bake is going to allow the game to be in a far better state, which it needed so much more time. And I still think they should have put out Modern Warfare 2 Multiplayer Remastered last year, and then Cold War would have come out this year. And then whoever is releasing after that. Because now there's rumors that Sledgehammer's putting out this year's game. It's not Infinity Ward, like, there's a lot of rumors going around about that with Modern Warfare 2 2021. Instead, apparently it's Sledgehammer, and they've been working on a game since, 2019? So, if that's the case, when the hell do they start working on that if they've been a support studio for so long? When did they find the time to start doing this? I mean, if we're really getting a new game from them this year, so be it. Like, COD's never gonna stop being annual because Activision they can't stop themselves. They just gotta keep having money from a brand new game every single year. They can't stop. The investors need it. They need it. We can't just take a simple 1-year-long break, a simple 2-year-long break, which will help the series in the long run, I'm sure, because fatigue is a main reason as to why COD was down the drain for so long, or was on the decline for so long. So, I think it's just the way that not only is this game titled Black Ops, but also the fact that a lot of people see it as a step backwards from Modern Warfare 2019, I'm sure that also definitely hurts it. Word of mouth definitely plays a role, I'm sure. Like, I'm sure there's so many factors at hand, but all in all, it's time for Treyarch to get away from the series. It's time for him to get away from the series, finally. I get calling this game Black Ops Cold War again for money, and also because of the campaign, so it's understandable. But outside of that, there was no reason for it to be called that. Like, even though it takes place in the Black Ops universe, it still can just be Cold War, similar to how COD World at War is still in the Black Ops universe, but that's still just World at War. Like, at the very least, that would have made it better, because it wouldn't have been as long-winded as a name on top of that. Again, most people probably call the game just Cold War. They don't call it Black Ops Cold War. And, the fact that, again, with there being a new Black Ops game every 2 to 3 years, and 2 of those games, specifically 3 and 4, having no reason to be called Black Ops, it just makes the name like, even more tiresome to look at now. People in general, I think, are just very sick of it. There's no reason for Black Ops to continue going on anymore. It's time for Treyarch to move on to a new sub-IP. It's time for him to try out something different that isn't Black Ops related. It's old at this point. It was cool as shit back in the day. Back when Black Ops 1 got revealed, it was called Black Ops. That sounded cool as fuck. But over 10 years later, it's old now. And even though COD's not going to go annual, which, man, I really wish it would. Or, no, not be annual. I still just want it to stop being annual, which we all know it won't. I know plenty of people feel the same way about it. About them wanting the series to no longer be annual, but, that's just probably never going to happen, ever, which, I mean, anything's possible, so maybe it will someday, but as of now, definitely don't see that happening, unfortunately, but hopefully one day. And in general, just Treyarch, please, unless you're the ones that are deciding to go with Black Ops in the title for every one of your games for the past decade, which I doubt. It's probably Activision, because they know that Black Ops and Treyarch are synonymous, and Black Ops and Call of Duty is synonymous. They're all synonymous with one another. They know this. But Even though Infinity Ward obviously didn't succeed with Ghosts and Infinite Warfare, clearly they were still let off the leash to do something like this. Okay, they were still let off the leash to do something that wasn't Modern Warfare at the time. And the reason why people were so hyped for Modern Warfare 2019 was because it was the first modern game in 8 years, since Modern Warfare 3 released in 2011. And there was a lot of rumors and leaks about how originally Black Ops Cold War was going to be a full-on reboot like Modern Warfare 2019, but the difference being is that, again, Modern Warfare 2019 came out 8 years later, after the last Modern Warfare game. The last Black Ops game before Cold War was 4, that was only 2 years ago. That's not enough time for any sort of reboot at all. It just isn't, especially with a series like COD. So, at this point, it's time for Treyarch to finally move on to something new. It's time for them to drop Black Ops. Like, even if they want to continue being in the same universe with their games, go ahead, just go with a different fucking title. Please, please go with a different title. It's old at this point. This probably doesn't seem like a big enough deal to make a rant video about, but, you know, I still wanted to talk about it either way. And I have more I want to say about Black Ops, which I'm going to dedicate to another video. And this will have to do with Warzone and Modern Warfare and the integration and all that, which a lot of people have an issue with. I feel there's enough to be said about that, so expect a video about that in the future, but for right now, yeah, it's time to get away from Black Ops. Modern Warfare has the excuse of being on hiatus for almost a decade, then returning. Black Ops does not. Okay, and again, Black Ops 3 and 4 had no reason to have that title. Had they been called something different and Cold War was the first Black Ops title in years, you know, that would have been perfect. That would have been fine because, hey, it's like, it's been 8 years since the last game, so this is quite nostalgic, but now it's just old. It's time for him to stop. Move on to a new sub-IP, because it's like, where does Treyarch even go now after Cold War? Because how Cold War was released was the result of a shit show behind the scenes, where originally this was Sledgehammer's game, and then a lot of employees left the studio, and then they had to bring on Raven Software, because there just wasn't enough people at Sledgehammer to work on the game at all, and both studios had such different visions that they had to have Treyarch step in right after Black Ops 4, and because they had nothing else prepared outside of what could have been Modern Warfare 2 Remastered multiplayer, you know, with that not being a new game, that's probably the reason why they thought, shit, let's just get out this game earlier than it's supposed to be. And now it's like, okay, Treyarch was rushed, so now with this game out of the way, where do they go from here? Obviously, they're still obligated to do the free DLC drops and seasons for this game, you know, that's a given. But outside of that, where do they even go from here? What else do they have to work with this title? It's just, Black Ops as a brand name can only last so long before it no longer sells like Activision wants it to. Again, it hasn't sold as well as Modern Warfare. It hasn't been as successful. People have not been talking about Cold War as much as Modern Warfare last year. Nowhere near as much. So, you know, that can only carry him for so long because it's just old. It's stale at this point. Let's move on and let's do something different. And, whatever we get this year, let's hope for the best, I guess. Honestly, what is the future of COD at this point? With Modern Warfare 2019, when that was first revealed, it seemed like, oh shit, okay, COD's back on track. It seems like they've got their head in a good space again, but it's like ever since finding out about Black Ops Cold War and how shit's gone behind the scenes, which I think we actually learned about the leaks behind this game before Modern Warfare was even revealed last year, so it's honestly been a bit weird behind the scenes, just not including Infinity Ward. Infinity Ward's in a good place, I would say. Like, it seems they've been in a pretty good place for the most part. Like, love or hate Modern Warfare, it's not my favorite COD, but they seem to have it together the best out of all the COD studios at the moment, so at the very least they've got that going for them. But with every other studio, and with just COD in general, with its future, it's just, where does the series go from here? Like, it truly feels like there's no direction that the series is working towards, because it's like none of the developers, like, it just doesn't seem like even the developers themselves have an idea, because I don't know, I just get that vibe. things just feel really uncertain with the franchise. Because back in the day, 10 years ago, it felt like there was a very clear direction, some sort of direction that the series was going to, where each new game was building upon the last in some way. Like, even with how much of MW 2.5 MW 3 could be, yeah, there was still something there, whereas now it's like, I don't know, it just feels like the series is the most directionless it's ever been. Because, as much criticism as the jetpack era received, like, there was definitely at least an attempt at innovation, albeit it wasn't well done. And it seemed like they attempted that again with Modern Warfare, and it obviously succeeded far better considering how big of a game it's been, but it's like, it doesn't feel like any studio knows where to go from here. Because it just doesn't seem like they have the time to do anything. Because it just seems like everything's a mess. And, hopefully things will get better for COD, because right now the future is very unclear. It is definitely not bright right now. So, we'll see where COD goes, but let's just drop the fucking Black Ops title. Let's drop Black Ops. It's done. It's done. We've had it 10 years now. Let's let it go and go over to a new sub-IP. Just something. You want to have it in the same universe? Sure. Just please with a different title. It's old now. But there you go. That's what I wanted to say for this rant. Hope you enjoyed. Make sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe for future content coming soon, as well as turn on the notification bell and set it to all notifications, and I'll see you all next time. But until then, I'm out. Later.